Hey, what is up, mortals? Welcome to Season 1 Part 3 of What If Villains Had an Academia. Just wanted to greet you guys by just saying sit back and relax, you're in for a treat, and so we begin. You're going to do just fine, young Midoriya. The words of the number one hero echoed within Izuku's mind as he took his first step towards the gates to his future. The bus ride was cramped to say the least, and the entire time it felt as though a pair of prying eyes were plastered to the multi-quirked teen, but he did his best to ignore them and focus on strategy. Each bot is worth a number of points based on difficulty. Present mic had resounded, and that big fourth bot. Don't you worry about it. That's just a bit of an obstacle we're tossing right at ya. Just focus on the ones worth the most points and do your best. Plus Ultra. The green-haired student took a deep breath as he looked at the gates, shimmering in the morning sun. The glint of the sunlight was just bright enough to create a halo around the archway ahead of him, the cityscape gorgeously constructed. The quirkified teen prepped his earbuds. He found it easier to use his abilities and control his thoughts with accompanying music. Then, before he knew it, he was on the ground. Midoriya tried to sit up, but sitting on top of him was the cause of his unexpected meeting with the pavement, a young girl. Her eyes glimmered amber. Bleach blonde hair let down over her shoulders. Her smile was broad and she seemed to be giggling and blushing uncontrollably. Her fair skin was hidden underneath a tan sweater, which was contrasted with a relatively short, navy blue skirt. She had pinned the anxious teen by both arms beneath her, eyes wild with curiosity and excitement. I had no idea they'd have such cute boys here. I'm so glad I came here. I'm Toga, Himiko Toga. Please make sure you remember me. What's your name? The energetic young lady leaned in closer, staring directly into Izuku's eyes. Her breath was hot against his face, which was now a vibrant shade of red, and he stuttered uncontrollably, barely being able to answer. My name is Izuku. Izuku. Toga swooned, finally letting him up as she dramatically swayed around. Izuku. Izuku. Such a delicious name. Izuku. She began giggling again, before both decided to check the crowd, which was now fully through the gate. The two examinees scrambled to their feet, Himiko accomplishing this far faster than the flustered boy she had leapt on, and they pushed their way through the doors. Most of the bots near the entrance had already been destroyed, so while the shaky teen she had greeted looked around for more bots near the entrance in a panic, the blood-sucking beauty decided she'd make a mad dash for the back of the arena. She leapt and arched over buildings, grabbing an old pipe on her way to the bots far from the gates. Himiko began wildly bashing at the nearby bots, laughing aloud and grinning ear to ear. She counted not the number of points she got, but the number of bots she broke whose lights turned off. The violent girl twirled and danced around the other participants, stealing points and keeping out of the way of attacks that would otherwise hit her. After a couple minutes of this, the jubilant young lady grew bored of the bots, instead wanting to attack the students nearby. She had to physically hold herself back, recalling All for One's words to her. Just remember, Himiko, do not draw blood from anyone while you're there. It will not only remove you from the area, but may unravel this whole plan. I'm counting on you. Huffing and mumbling complaints to herself, she watched the other students hunt down every last bot in the area. The amber-eyed aggressor leaned against the wall, one foot set against it with her arms crossed. She felt the urge to attack something with that delicious red liquid nearly overcame the teen engulfed in bloodlust. Suddenly, as if on cue, a tremendous rumble sprouted from the center of the arena. Toga looked up, giggling and starry-eyed, running towards it with a ferocious glee. The sudden shockwave had knocked buildings loose and caused others to crumble, showering threatening debris all around the malicious maiden. She expertly maneuvered around the projectiles, sliding beneath some and flipping over others. Just as she was nearing the bot, however, something went wrong. Himiko's leg was slammed by a hunk of debris she didn't see. She yelped in pain and was knocked down hard. Further crumbling plasterboard and shards of rebar rocketed down and plowed them alongside and atop the unconscious girl's body, and all the other participants fled out of sheer panic. Her vision grew blurry, and she saw the gargantuan robot in her peripheral vision. She felt herself tear up, and before the growing vignette around her vision could fully consume her sightline, she cried out a single word. Izuku. Midoriya had been momentarily frozen in anxiety, seeing absolutely zero bots for him to destroy. However, out of the corner of his eye, he spotted the girl who had just tackled him to the ground bolt towards the back of the arena, and suddenly, it clicked. He wouldn't find any bots at the front, the back would be abundant. Nobody would have gone there yet. Sure enough, as the teary-eyed teenager arrived at the scene, he discovered his hypothesis to be true. The students were few and far between, while the mock villains ran rampant. He took a breath, turned on Hungarian Rhapsody No. 2, skipped to the most energetic portion of the song at maximum volume in his earbuds, and went to town rendering metal from metal with powerful bursts of energy. The young examinee seemed to gracefully stride around the battlefield, rhythms evident in his movements, yet Izuku's body stood rigid and his attacks landed hard. Every pulse was right on rhythm. Every step a lead up into his next attack, every leap aimed at a new bot. A few students grew distracted by his work, pausing momentarily with their most recent coat crumpled beneath them. Awestruck eyes scanned the scene before them, incredulous at the wreckage caused by a single boy with a pair of earbuds. Midoriya's malachite-tinted blasts were right on rhythm with his music. The focused student's mind empty save for the notes reverberating in his ears. He allowed his natural reflexes to take control, forcing the rhythm into his actions. Before he knew it, his score was rocketing beyond the other students. He didn't think about numbers or points, nor did he consider what the other students were doing or plotting. Izuku Midoriya was focused purely on his goal, and the fierce determination in his eyes ignited his destructive dance to all who saw it. Not too long after he was getting into the rhythm, the earbudded student felt a massive rumble resonate throughout the battlefield. It shook his rhythm, caught him off balance, and allowed a villain to smack the freckled fighter clean across the road. He slowly stood up, holding his head with a hand. Once his vision came back after a second or two, Midoriya saw all the other students bolting away. They ran from something, but the wide-eyed brawler couldn't quite identify what. Then he heard something. A familiar voice, a familiar name, not too terribly far away. It was hard to hear over the paired rumbling that grew more violent, and the growth of the noise was alarmingly rapid. The passionate young man paused his music and turned to face the noises. What the teen saw was a familiar face. A face with eyes closed and mouth slightly open, body buried beneath broken buildings. A face with no sign of consciousness. A face lying in the direct path of a bot whose rumbles were easily identifiable as the cause of the green-haired teen's earlier performance hiccup. Without even thinking, Midoriya launched himself to his feet and ran to the rubble, rapidly swapping his music to the apex of Hall of the Mountain King as he scrambled to save the young blonde. Looking up at the bot, then at the young girl, the panicked young man felt a surge of energy. He felt a release of fatigue, an urge deep within his gut. His mind cleared unexpectedly, and he held both of his hands out. His heart rate grew ever more rapid to match the beat of the classical rhythm blaring in his ears. Izuku's arms bulged from overexerted muscles prying every last ounce of strength from him, his legs tensing to their fullest extent to ground him in place. In a massive, dazzling flash that even awoke the previously unconscious Himiko, Midoriya launched a pair of pulses that drove him partially into the ground and skewered the robot. Its center had a massive, perfectly circular hole punched through it, and with a sickeningly wet snap, the green-haired savior's ankles gave out, whipping him first into the hard asphalt, bashing the back of his head in the middle of his spine in the process, and then launching him away from the bot, head over heels. The ensuing shockwave managed to knock some of the rubble off of Himiko, who was able to shove the rest off to scramble over to the young boy who had just saved her life. She ignored the pain of her broken leg as she struggled to writhe over to her savior. Before the rescued blonde could see how wounded the freckled fighter was, she heard a massive creaking noise. The blast Izuku had set off had even managed to push the bot into the air a few yards, and as it landed, the inner workings began to fragment and ricochet around the cityscape. The overzealous girl covered the young boy with her body, holding him close and tight, blushing all the while. After she felt a few stray fragments scrape her back and sides, she looked over the teenage laser cannon. Aside from having seemingly bruised several spots on his body and breaking his ankles, the unconscious boy seemed to be safe. Toga silently and proudly patted herself on the back for keeping any shards from hurting him further. As she saw blood drip from some of his various open wounds, she resisted the intense urge to lick them clean, instead opting to lay him down with his head in her lap. She readjusted herself so she could lean against the building before passing out herself, body still riddled with broken glass and warped metal. Before she allowed herself to fully pass out, she reminded herself about why she was really here. I'm here to get intel for the league. For my school. I'm here too. She stopped herself, remembering why she wanted to help the weird hand guy. She wanted life to be easier, to make living in this world easier. She wanted to replicate her idol, Stain. But the blue-haired freak she was teaming up with didn't think it was such a good idea. She wanted to go to the villain's school because she wanted to see what school would be like with people who accepted who she really was. But that hand guy, he didn't accept her goals. He was against what she wanted to do, or at least didn't think of her dreams as any sort of real goal. Just like her parents, just like her old schools, and just like the rest of the world, she felt a resolve harden inside of her to truly be the next Mr. Staney. The fading young lady looked down longingly at the first person she'd ever protected, the first person who didn't immediately reject her, and who actually cared about her enough to help her out of a sticky situation. Maybe it wouldn't hurt to stay longer than planned. Thank you all for indulging yourselves in the story thus far. Hope you enjoyed it. Now there are a few more things that I'd like to go over before the video ends. Firstly, we've got a second channel called Anime Deep Dive. Anime Deep Dive goes deep into the facts and lore of a wide variety of anime. It's sure to expand your weeb knowledge for all kinds of series guaranteed. On top of that, we have a third channel called We The Celestials Naruto What Ifs. It's what we do on this channel already but in the vast world and lore of Naruto. Go check it out if you're in the mood for some jutsu action. I'd like to let you all know on behalf of We The Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details will be in the description below. If you're perhaps interested in what we do here at WTC, then I would like to extend out an invitation to join the team. The only caveat being we only accept members 16 and older to join our crew. You can find us on our Discord, which you can locate in the description below. Our Discord is an all-around fantastic place to be, whether you're a fan or looking to join our band of misfits. All you gotta do is hit up the recruitment server and sign up for whichever category of work that fulfills your interest. We're always looking for members to join us. Well, that's it from us for today's video. So thank you all for watching and have a great day.